Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Online with the CMC, Getting to Know You, Special Collections in Your Library. Barb Scoby is going to do the presentation this morning. She will take questions at the end. The CMC staff will be monitoring the chat, though, and if you have a burning question during her presentation, we can certainly stop her and ask the question. At the end of the presentation, I will allow everybody to unmute themselves if you want to do that to ask your questions. Otherwise, I think Barb, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our October session of Online with the CMC. As Pam said, my name is Barb Scoby, and I've been a cataloger with the CMC for almost a year. And while working here, I've had the opportunity to catalog books by local authors, books containing local history, and items from special collections. And today I'll be discussing special collections. I'm going to focus on some items that I've cataloged in the past year and that have caught my eye. And this really has been such a great opportunity to get to know more about the communities here in Illinois while examining the various collections that have been curated. As Pam said, after the presentation, I and my colleagues will be available to answer any questions you may have. And just note, all photographs in this presentation were taken by me, and there's no need to tell me not to stick to my job of cataloging and not venture into photography. So our topics for today are, what is a special collection? How do I submit my special collection items for cataloging? And then I'll be going through some examples of records that I've created with a brief discussion of mark fields that are found in these records. So a special collection consists of materials that cover a specific topic, theme, or area of interest. These materials are shelved together in a group. The Society of American Archivists states that unlike materials stored in an institutional archives, special collections materials generally are acquired from outside the institution, either by purchase or donation. So unlike archival materials, which are usually documents created by the institution itself, materials in a special collection are collected and chosen for the purpose of creating a special collection. So what can you put in your special collection? Anything you want. Libraries are free to determine what materials would be of interest to their community and create a special collection with them. In the following slides, I will discuss collections that consist of materials related to clubs, town projects, historical figures, and town histories. I'm going to go into more detail as I discuss the individual collections, but the three main ways that collections are sent to the CMC are as follows. The most common way is just sending the items to the CMC. But sometimes the collection is too large to be sent or is too fragile or valuable to be sent. In those cases, libraries can choose to email pictures and details about the collection to the CMC. But in some cases, pictures and details aren't enough, and a cataloger will do a site visit to determine how to catalog a collection. Libraries can submit a collection that is complete or individual items that will be added to an existing collection. What I mean by complete is, for example, a library may receive a donation of materials that pertain to a particular person and decide that these materials are a collection all by themselves. In this case, one bibliographic record will be created to encompass that entire collection. Individual means that a library has like a collection of items that cover the history of their town. As they obtain new items for that collection, they will send the new item to the CMC, and an individual bibliographic record will be created for that item. All right, so my first example is the Anti-Rust Club collection. This was sent to me by the Lincoln Library by email. And generally, the Lincoln Library will send an email for their larger collections that are seen as complete. And if they have any individual items, they'll send the items to the CMC, and I will add them. I will create a bib record, and then that'll be part of that collection. So this collection consists of documents from a women's literary club. It was formed in 1894, and members studied and discussed history as well as literature. The women kept informed about current political issues and performed plays and hosted events to fundraise for various organizations in the community. I found a reference to the club as recently as 2020, so this club has been active for quite a long time. So when creating records for special collections, I have found that the OCLC Bibliographic Formats and Standards website is very useful, especially for the 3XX fields. I've put the address on the slide. It's, and I'll give you a minute to write it down if you want to, but it's www.oclc.org/bibformats/en.htm. So what we're looking at now is the first part of the record for the Anti-Rust Club. As there are various types of material in the collection, which means not just books, the record for this has a material type of mixed materials. In addition, a 007 field has been added. The indicators are undefined and the subfield A is Z because this is a collection that has different material types. And the subfield B has a U because the forms have not been specified. Also note the 043 and 082 fields. Since this collection contains items that are specifically about Sangamon County, Illinois, the geographic area code for Illinois is presented in the 043 field. You can see that N-US-IL. And in the 082 field, you see the Illinois code, which is 977.3, and the Sangamon County code 56 are at the end of the Dewey number. The 300 field contains the physical description of the collection, and you will notice this field is set up differently than you'd see in most 300 fields. Since this is for a collection rather than just an individual items, the rules are a bit different. Subfield 3 indicates what types of material are in the collection, which in this case is records. Subfield A represents the extent and F represents the type. This collection consists of 7 boxes, so A is 7 and F is box. Finally, subfield G contains the dimensions of the boxes. So this is the middle part of the record, and all the information in these fields was provided by the Lincoln Library. This is very helpful when the cataloger isn't able to look through the materials themselves. And also the library is the best resource for describing the collection to highlight what is important to their community. And I really appreciate the motto that was taken from a Robert Browning work, which reads, just so much work as keeps the brain from rust, just so much play as lets the heart expand. I just thought that was a really cool way to think about, you know, what their group is about. So moving on to some things that were sent by the Dixon Public Library. They generally send their items to the CMC, and included in the box with the items are the titles for the items. In most cases, these titles have been chosen by the library as the items themselves don't contain or have a title, so to speak. They've sent me so many interesting items, and I've chosen the Abraham Lincoln Birthday Bicentennial Flag and the Northern Illinois Normal School and Dixon Business College pamphlet to share with you today. This is the flag, and I wasn't able to find out much about it other than what is stated on the flag itself. I did make a few phone calls, but it appears that no one kept records on it. And, you know, sometimes cataloging is like that, and you have to do the best with what you have and use cataloger's judgment in order to make the most complete record that you can. On the next slide, I will point out the 3XX fields that are necessary for visual materials like this flag. So the 300 field for this item is what you're used to, with subfield A showing the extent of the item, which is 1 flag. B has the other physical details, and C has the dimensions. The 336 states that it is a 3-dimensional form, which is TDF, and in all 3XX fields, the subfield 2 identifies where this term came from, which in this case, the 336 field is RDA content. The flag is unmediated, which is indicated in the first 337 field, and is classified as other, which is indicated in the second 337 field. The 338 fields identify this as an object with a carrier type of other. Now the 340 fields are for the physical medium. The first 340 fields are used to indicate that this item is made of cloth and that it contains color. The third is the dimensions, and the fourth indicates that ink has been applied to the surface of the flag. The 380 designates the class or genre to which the item belongs, which in this case is flags. There we go. I thought this pamphlet was really interesting. Inside it shows courses available for that term, and it gives you an idea of what the school was like in the late 1800s. And can you imagine paying $105 for one term of tuition and board for $105? That just amazes me. Okay. So now let's look at the first part of the OCLC record for this item. Although the library only sent the 36th session pamphlet, I went ahead and cataloged this as a continuing resource in the event that the library found more pamphlets. I'm sure you've also noticed that there are quite a few 246 fields. I wanted to make this as findable as possible since the cover of the pamphlet has at least 3 bold headings. And also I wanted to spell out the ordinal number 36th, because you never know what, how someone might search and they might actually type out 36 in letters. So now to the Sallie Logan Public Library. For this collection, I did a site visit because there were so many papers and binders, and I wanted to get a better understanding of the scope of the collection. The Murfreesboro Big Muddy manufactured gas plant operated in Murfreesboro, Illinois, from about 1917 to 1926. This collection contains documents and reports from 2000 to 2022 regarding the remediation of the land and the demolition of the structures. Since there were such a variety of documents in the 21 bound volumes in this collection, I actually went and created my own document with dates, titles, and contents to ensure that I included everything in the record. So as you can see in the 3XX fields, this collection contains maps, diagrams, charts, and uses 2 different binding techniques. Also, I mentioned in the previous slide that there were 21 bound volumes in this collection. So why didn't I put 21 in the 300A subfield? Well, I left it off because as a continuing resource, more volumes could be added to the collection at a later time. And if you look at the 300 field, you will see that there is no subfield C, and that is because these documents aren't all a uniform size. I could have also put a, 27 centimeters to, or 35 centimeters. I could have put a range, but in this case, I just left off the C. So the scope of this collection is very wide, which means that I would need to create quite a few subject headings. The rule for subject headings is to have no more than 10. And I was able to describe this collection with 9 to my immense relief, because I wanted to make sure that everything that was included in this collection was documented in the record. In addition to covering many topics, this collection was put together by several organizations, and those had to be included in the record as well. Because you see several commissioning bodies, and then the research company, the Thermoretech Consulting Corporation. So I'm not going to go over the records for the next 3 items, but I just think they're really cool, and I wanted to show them to you. And these are the Galena Women's Club annual calendar, a Sanborn map, and Galena Gus and Galena GERT tour Galena. The calendars are in the top row of this picture. The club had a full schedule every year, including presentations, social events, and meetings. Included in the box with these calendars were other items such as bylaws for local Freemasons groups and histories of the area. And this Tales of Dubuque right here, I the stories in there were so interesting. And it really does, as it says on the cover, many colorful happenings in the history of Dubuque land. I've given you the OCLC number for the Women's Club annual calendar, just in case you wanted to look at it. And that is 12926-91219. Next, this map was hand colored to show building construction, locations of windows and doors, elevators, and available water facilities. It also shows factories, commercial occupancy of buildings, property boundaries, and house and block numbers. And before I came across this, I wasn't aware that the Sanborn Map Company existed and that they created maps for cities and towns in the US in the 19th and 20th centuries. There are 11 maps in this volume, and it's cool to see how Galena looked in 1924, how the street layout was and what businesses were in the town at that time. So I think this is my favorite. This is Galena Gus and Galena GERT Tour Galena. Published in 1991, this coloring book shows Gus and GERT at different businesses and sites in Galena. The drawings are well done, and I think they're really cute. And based on all the places they go in Galena and the events that they go to, I think I'm going to take a trip to Galena one of these days and check out the town for myself, because it looks like they just have a lot of fun things going on around town. So this is the last of my examples, although there are so many other interesting items that I've cataloged, and we'd be here all day if I showed you everything. So thank you for the opportunity to share some of the cool things that I found and for joining us today. These are the sources that I used just to get some extra information about some of the groups and the manufactured gas plant. And here are my associates on the call today. And it's time, if you have any questions, please ask them.
Thanks, Barb. Give me a hot second and I will allow people to unmute themselves. Okay, so everybody should be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Otherwise, please use the chat box. We don't have any right now. Just a reminder, the slides without the notes are on L2 right now. After the presentation, we'll be adding the slides with the notes. And there's also an evaluation form on the L2 event where the PDFs are also located. So you'll have to scroll down in the L2 event to find those. But if you could fill out the evaluation form and email that to me, the instructions are on the evaluation form. It's just a short Word document. And then remember, next month we're doing cataloging with an EDIA focus, and that's November 10th. So we look forward to seeing all of you there as well. We still don't have any questions. We'll give everybody a minute or so. If you have any, please feel free to unmute yourself or put your question in the chat box. And we will also, everybody on the slide is going to be at ILA next week. So if any of you are attending ILA, please stop by our booth and tell us hi and get some CMC swag. No questions. Oh, Anna just says great presentation, Barb. Okay, so Victoria says, how does it work to manage these collections without barcoding them? The library that owns them is responsible for that. We do ask everybody before they send their items in to have everything property stamped. Just in case if the ALDS label comes off the item, we want to make sure that we return it to the owning library. And Katie said, what were some of the topics the Anti-Rust Club discussed, if you were able to read through them at all?
I wasn't able to read through them because they didn't send anything to me. I did in one picture, it looked like they were talking about, looked like it was a rough one, discussing race, and I couldn't read the entire thing because it was just in a picture. But I think it was indicative of the time that it was discussed, but yeah.
Yeah, Katie put, that's right, I forgot, they emailed them. Yeah. Yeah, I think they tried to be very topical, especially because I know I believe I saw the same picture, Barb. And you know, having thoughtful discussions about current topics that that matter to everybody. So
Exactly. You explained it better than I did.
I don't know about that. So Anne says, have you cataloged finding aids or used finding aids to catalog a collection? Can I answer that just real quick before you do, Barb? So the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Museum have started sending blueprints to us, and they do have a finding aid with that that they had already created, if that makes sense. And then Barb, go.
And I have created, I think, one finding aid record, but generally, yeah, the larger ones already have their finding aid.
Okay, any other questions? Eric says, great job, Barb. I love the Gertie and Gus book too. Galena is worth a visit. I have been to Galena several times and I really like going there. There's usually a lot to do. Lori says, thank you for the information. What interesting items! Exclamation point. And then Anne, I think follow up says, thanks, and have you utilized the 856 for links to a finding aid?
I'm looking back to, sorry if I'm making you dizzy. I'm looking back to the
I don't know if you showed, yeah, far enough down.
Yeah, well, actually in this one, it's in the 555, but I believe, yes, later on in the record, there is an 856 that,
Or maybe, did we do 776? Maybe, yeah, but I believe we did add a link.
Yeah.
For those. And then Katie says, fantastic presentation, Barb. So many interesting things you've been able to catalog. And Ed sent thanks again. So
thank you guys. Listen to me ramble about the, these are so cool. And
they are. Yep, we need to do some field trip visits to Dixon Library for sure, and some of your other fantastic libraries where you have really cool collections.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? And remember, if you're in a place where you can unmute yourself and ask your question too. Katie says, I think we should start our own anti-rust club. I agree.
That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we can come up with as cool of a motto as I have, though.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Maybe they'd want to open up a different chapter of it, so they can be
we could be the sister chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, then we just want to say thank you for attending. We appreciate that. And as always, if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in FY 2024, since we already have our topics scheduled for this fiscal year. And we are also looking for any ideas about Moodle courses that you would like us to offer, because remember, those Moodle courses are free to any library staff in Illinois. So you can add that if you fill out the evaluation form that is in L2. Remember, you just have to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and the L2 event, the evaluation form is there. Otherwise, hopefully we can see some of you at ILA next week, or we'll see you here in the Zoom room for our November session. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.